Assalamualaikum and hello, my name is Najla. Today, along with my groupmates Nadia and Zarifah, we are going to present our case study presentation regarding the issue of Al Jazeera documentary that had taken almost all Malaysian attention. Throughout the presentation, we are going to present regarding the background of the issue and the evaluation of the issue, which will be explained by me, the current and proposed solution by Nadia, and lastly, the recommendation by Zarifah. On the 3rd July 2020, a Qatari international public media, Al Jazeera Media Network, had published a documentary titled Locked Up in Malaysia Lockdown. It portrayed how Malaysia treated the immigrants like an animal, where they're being locked up inside a barbed wire and even arrested them and put them in the immigrants' detention. In the documentary, they only interviewed the immigrants as they are not able to interview the senior government ministers and the officials. This had taken most of the Malaysian attention as most of the interviewers were illegal immigrants. On 7th July 2020, former Senior Minister Ismail Sabri had addressed and clarified the issue.
Saya lihat tuduhan-tuduhan terhadap Malaysia ini amat tidak wajar, tanpa fakta yang jelas dan menuduh kita secara membuta-tuli. Ya, apa yang dilakukan adalah berdasarkan undang-undang. Pihak immigration menggunakan akta immigration untuk menahan mereka yang tidak mempunyai dokumen yang sah di dalam negara kita ataupun yang langsung tidak mempunyai dokumen. Kita boleh tanya Al Jazeera ni, berikan kita nama mana-mana negara di dalam dunia ini yang membenarkan warga asing yang tidak mempunyai dokumen perjalanan ataupun yang mempunyai dokumen yang tidak sah boleh bebas di negara mereka. Saya cabar Al Jazeera tunjukkan negara mana yang memberikan kebebasan mutlak kepada warga asing yang tidak berdokumen.
On 9th July 2020, Al Jazeera had published an article saying that they refused to acknowledge the allegation as they believe in media rights. Thus, everyone deserves to have freedom and asked Malaysia to stop giving them death threats. It proved that Al Jazeera did not do any thorough research on the laws of illegal immigrants, hence they jumped to a conclusion that Malaysia treats undocumented immigrants poorly. A lot of Malaysian citizens were infuriated that they had created cyber war, giving death threats to the journalists, urging them to take down the video. Even former senior minister urged Al Jazeera to apologize to all Malaysians. However, Al Jazeera refused to apologize and strongly stand on its ground on press freedom. Due to this, an article from The Wire had expected that this might negatively affect Malaysia's diplomatic relation with Qatar, as this issue was similar with the issues that happened with 4 Arab states, which are Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain and Egypt, who despise Al Jazeera Media Network. On 2017, the 4 Arab states had declared soft war and cutting ties with Qatar due to several reasons, and one of the reasons are the overly press freedom of the media network that touched several sensitive issues. They had commanded Qatar to shut down the broadcast channel, but Qatar refused to do so, and this caused them to have diplomatic relation problems with Qatar. Hence, an article from The Wire had expected that Malaysia might be another country that will have diplomatic relations issues with Qatar. That is all from me. Now I'll pass to Nadia to explain more further regarding the current and the proposed solution.
I'm Nadia, and now I will look into our suggested solutions for this issue. But before that, let's quickly take a look at the current solutions made by the Malaysian authorities. Firstly, FINAS and PDRM had initiated a critical investigation to find out whether Al Jazeera had attained a valid license to produce the documentary. It is later clarified that the production team failed to comply with the licensing requirement, which reflects a violation of the Communication and Multimedia Act. Malaysia Communication and Multimedia Minister Datuk Saifuddin Abdullah also stated that the ministry will examine the news channel's media credentials, where the violation of this requirement would cause the crew to cease operation. PDRM further interrogated 7 Al Jazeera journalists, where 2 of them had their work visas withdrawn by Malaysian officials. We can also see how Malaysian Communication and Multimedia Commission, MCMC, took part by raiding the Astro and Unified TV offices who reported to have aired this documentary. Lastly, the Immigration Department Director General made an official statement that the Bangladeshi immigrant worker who took part in documentary and criticized government's management of illegal immigrants to be expelled and permanently barred from entering Malaysia. Based on what has been done by the Malaysian authorities, we believe that few effective changes can be taken to resolve this issue. Firstly, an improvement should be made to enhance press freedom in Malaysia. The Malaysian Press Institute Chief Executive Officer Datuk Dr. Chamil Waria stated that the existing laws regarding media must be constantly updated to ensure strong independent media and encourage fair journalism. Hence, he was expecting the government to develop the Freedom of Information Act and eliminate necessary regulations that suppress media freedom. By enhancing media rights in Malaysia, it is more likely to minimize the bias and false reporting from the foreign media. Next, we also would like to suggest the media and public intervention through propaganda. A study analyzed that propaganda is an effective tool to change people's point of views and influence their behaviors towards an issue. It is stated that through media platform, this propaganda can be a workable method to influence public's mood by controlling the set of desired information to be exposed to the public. This can assist government to reshape public's opinion as it allows people to assess current information and change their judgment regarding this issue. Now, to further explain our strategies for these proposed solutions, let's hear from Zarifah.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Zarifah. As mentioned by Nadia, there are a few proposed solutions for this issue, but how can we accomplish those solutions? Well, here are some recommendations to execute the proposed solutions. Number 1. To improve press freedom, the safety and security of journalists must always be ensured. Failure to do so can hinder the public from receiving information. Media companies and official authorities must ensure the safety and security of journalists from any possible threats and violence from the public. There could be physical violence or even cyberbullying. This is important because the press and the media is a channel that helps the public receive information. So the act of maintaining our channel of information helps us progress towards a greater press freedom. Next, to improve media freedom, the government must be more lenient in allowing the local and foreign media to convey messages. Foreign media should be allowed in official conferences as well. This is because depriving the people of receiving information is also depriving them of their right to know, as mentioned by the United Nations in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And lastly, media companies and other relevant government authorities can conduct a cooperative discussion on how to improve freedom of expression. Now, this is actually being done by the Council of Europe as a means to create an environment that advocates for freedom of expression. Next, we have establishing foreign media policy. Firstly, the public can make a peaceful protest against foreign media that causes defamation and tarnishes the country's dignity. This can give a sense of urgency for the government to make a change. Next, the government should strongly emphasize the limits and guidelines that foreign media must oblige. The government should inform them of what they should and should not cover, as there are laws for those who violate communication acts. And lastly, the media and journalists must understand all the policies before making any coverage to avoid any violation and misconduct. Defamation and distortion of facts are considered major professional misconduct in journalism. And lastly, another proposed solution is to create intervention through propaganda. Now, despite its reputation as being something that misleads audiences, not all propagandas are used for negative influences. For example, there are health propaganda advertisements that encourage people to lead a healthier lifestyle and those that influence people to stop smoking. So to create propaganda to counter the documentary, the government first should gather necessary information and messages that they wish to clarify and justify. Next, in order to ensure maximum effectiveness of the propaganda, we have to identify the target audiences. This is so that the contents of the propaganda is suitable to be shared, viewed, and is easily understood by both the local people and non-local audiences. Lastly, the propaganda should be uploaded on online platforms like video sharing platforms and networking sites. But why should we share it online? Now, this is because it is found that propaganda conveyed using the current most important form of communication is the best way to ensure effectiveness of the propaganda. From the recommendations, we can also gather some do's and don'ts. To improve press freedom, the government should be more transparent in giving information. But the public should not practice violence and give threats to journalists. To establish foreign media policies, everyone should be given the freedom of speech, but only to a certain extent. So those who are given the rights to speech should not misuse them. And lastly, we can use the media to spread truth and clarify any inaccuracies made by other parties. However, the media cannot be biased and should not convey inaccurate messages. So that is all from us. Thank you. Assalamualaikum.